RusAme reader, RusAme! And today I will be reading to you from Never Left by Plastic Bag 3207. Now, on to Chapter 13. America sighed as he stared into the pond, watching his mother care for Russia because he couldn't. The thought kept resurfacing, no matter how much he pushed it away or tried to drown it in something else. It was haunting him. Why did Russia want to get rid of him? Was it because he ran away so much? He thought life was going well. America didn't bother to turn his head as he heard someone approach from behind. He just assumed it was East. Well, what do we have here? The voice said. America froze, instantly recognizing the voice. Hello, Confederate, he said, his tone laced with malice. Hello, Union. How's life been treating ya? Not too well, apparently, because you're dead. He laughed, amused by his own joke, if you could even call it that. What do you want, Con? America grumbled as he stood up, still not turning around to look the other in the eyes. Oh, I just thought I would stop and say hello to my favorite pal, he said. America finally turned around to see the face of his long-lost enemy. Confederate wore a large grin. His teeth were sharp and pointed. No, Con. What the hell do you want? America asked, clenching his hands into fists, not breaking eye contact. Confederate laughed. Oh, silly Amay. Don't Amay me, the man yelled. Oh, don't you know, it's rude to interrupt people, Union. I was telling the truth, by the way. I just wanted to stop by and say hello, Confederate said, starting to circle the country. By now, America had enough. He swung a punch at Confederate, knocking him backwards and making him fall into the edge of the pond. The man reached up to touch where America had punched him. He slowly looked back up and made eye contact with the other. Well then, he said, standing back up. Confederate cracked his knuckles before punching America as hard as he could. America stumbled backwards before launching himself at the other country. They both punched, hit, scratched, and hurt each other in any way they could. Confederate! A voice echoed through the open field. Both Americans stopped at the voice. They watched as Yugoslavia flew down towards them, an annoyed expression on his face. Hello, Confederate, he said, staring at the country. Aren't you supposed to be somewhere? The Slav said, raising a brow. Confederate gulped. Yugoslavia cleared his throat. With that, Confederate jumped up and flew off. America was so confused. What the heck was that? He asked, scratching the back of his head. Well, I'm basically the peacekeeper here. I make sure that there is minimal negative contact between countries. It's just kind of the job I adopted myself because no one else was doing it. So, if you're ever having trouble with someone, just call me and I'll come running, he explained. Well, thank you, America said, standing up. Yugoslavia nodded. No problem, he said. America jolted awake. He looked around to see Greenland cooking in the kitchen while Antarctica was sipping coffee and resting his head on Greenland's shoulder. He wagged his tail slightly, catching the attention of the country. Well, good morning, Chips, Antarctica said with his usual smile. He motioned towards a dog bowl on the other side of the kitchen. He trotted over to see that it was filled with dog food. He wagged his tail and started to eat. After a little while of just kind of laying around, Antarctica opened up the door and let him outside. He and Greenland walked over to the little vegetable garden America had found yesterday. They started to pull out the weeds, water the plants, and check if anything edible had been growing. Chips just sat and watched from a distance. Antarctica looked over to the dog. You do realize that you can wander around any of the property, right? Just make sure to come back by noon so we know you aren't dead, he said. Chips stood up and wagged his tail. He let out a bark or two as he ran towards the woods. Once he got to the edge of the forest, he stopped to just listen. He could hear the faint sounds of a woodpecker smashing its head into a tree. There was a faint rustle in the bushes. He looked over. A rabbit. He wagged his tail and lunged forward, scaring it. He started to run after it. It was agile, much more so than him, but he was still quick. Eventually, he slowed down to a stop as the rabbit disappeared into the forest. He sat down and panted. Looking up, he saw 3 deer staring at him. They all just stared until something spooked the deer and they ran off into the forest. America yawned and looked around. This would be a perfect place to say that he had no idea where he was, which is true. He doesn't really know where he is. But America isn't a stupid character, so he had kept an idea of what direction Antarctica and Greenland's house was in. He turned around and started walking in the general direction. Antarctica let out a little gasp as he saw the white dog return. Greenland looked over and chuckled. "My goodness, Chips, you're covered in sticks and burrs," Antarctica exclaimed. The man sighed and left to go get a brush. A few moments later, he returned and started to brush through the dog's white fur, removing any of the sharp-edged seeds from the annoying weed. The man sighed as he finished brushing the dog. He then got up to go join his lover again. America walked over to the front of the house. It didn't really have a driveway, just a place where they had parked their car so much that it had just become dirt, and the grass was gone. It was like that for a mile or two before it became an actual concrete road. America sat in the middle of their driveway and looked down the road as the sun started to set. He was tempted to try and get back to Russia by running away, but he knew that it would be a terrible idea to do at night. It was a 3 to 4 hour drive, so who knows how long it would be to walk. He sighed and just stared down at the road, wondering when he could see Russia. And that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed. Anyway, I'd like to invite you to join the Discord, which is linked down in the description below. That being said, I hope you have a nice rest of your day, night, or whatever it is for you. Just enjoy your time. And I will see you tomorrow.